So now it is my pleasure to introduce our featured speaker today, Mr. Paul Norton, the new superintendent for Lake Travis Independent School District. Paul Norton began his tenure as superintendent of schools for the Lake Travis Independent School District on August 1st of 2020. He came to us from Texarkana ISD, where he was most recently superintendent there as well. Mr. Norton holds a Bachelor of Science degree in biology from Texas Tech, get your guns up, and a Master's of Science degree in education from Texas A&M University, Texarkana. A few of his most notable accomplishments as superintendent at Texarkana include developing and integrating a science, technology, engineering, and math STEM program, which earned Texarkana ISD the Comprehensive School District STEM Leadership Award, passage of a $29.9 million bond, which included a new elementary school and sixth grade center to address the district's 12-year increase in student enrollment, and the opening of eSchool Prep, an online tuition-free program for students grades 5 through 11. Mr. Norton has garnered numerous awards and accolades during his tenure at Texarkana ISD, including Superintendent of the Year, Region 8, Education Service Center, 2015. Texas Superintendent of the Year, State Finalist, 2015. Sounds like that was a good year for you. And the President's Award, the Greater Texarkana Branch of the NAACP in 2014. Mr. Norton was highly active in the Texarkana community, serving as treasurer of the Texarkana Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors, and was also a member of the Wilbur Smith Rotary Club in Texarkana. Professionally, Mr. Norton is a member of the Texas Association of Schools Administrator and a graduate of its Future Ready Superintendent Academy. He serves on the Texas Policy Committee on Public Education Information, the Texas Curriculum Management Program Cooperative Board, and the Lieutenant Governor's Superintendent Advisory Panel. Mr. Norton and his wife, Jenna, have 3 children. Emily, who's a freshman at Arkansas Tech, which is where my father-in-law went to school, interestingly enough. Julie, who is a high school freshman, and Caleb, who's in the 5th grade. Together, they enjoy being active, attending sporting events, hiking, as well as traveling and experiencing new places. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Paul Norton.
Thank you for the opportunity to come and speak today. It's always a great opportunity to get in front of a group of people, especially in the middle of COVID. And so just the fact that the Chamber has been willing to host this event and allow us to come together as a group, for those that are in the house as well as those who are in the remote world, we appreciate you logging in and giving us the opportunity to share with you the story of Lake Travis currently and days ahead. And so thank you very much for that. Thank you to Laura and the Chamber for all their help, the board for all their assistance. We've been meeting up here a couple of times over the last week and a half to make sure that we had a great presentation for you today and a great opportunity to continue this partnership between the school district and the business community here in Lake Travis. So thank you again for that opportunity. Just a few things that we want to go over today, just kind of an agenda of topics that we will talk about. I'll make some introductions here in just a moment, and then talk about the thing that everybody wants to talk about is COVID-19 and how it's impacted Lake Travis ISD. We'll look at our enrollment numbers and where they are, talk about legislative challenges that are coming up in the next session that starts in January, and then talk about some improvements that have been made in the district since the presentation last year. And so it's a good time. At the end, as Anne-Marie said, we'll have a time for Q&A and welcome any questions that you have. And I have a great team with me to help answer any questions that I may not know the answer to. And so we definitely want to answer any questions that you have and make you feel comfortable with where we're headed. So quick group of introductions. First, the board members for Lake Travis ISD. And I want to brag on them just for a minute. Being a board member is not just attending a meeting a month and coming together. When you look at what this board has been through the last 8 or 9 months with COVID, with the decisions that they've had to make, they did not sign up to make decisions in the middle of a pandemic. They signed up to make decisions that best impact kids. And this board has been able to combine those two in a miraculous way to do what's best for our students on a daily basis. And so board members that we have with us today, our president, Ms. Kim Flash, president of the LTISD board. Ms. Lauren White, the secretary of the board for Lake Travis. Mr. Guy Clayton, trustee. And then Jessica Patanti, a board member. And John Allier, Mr. Dorsett, and William Beer were not able to join us today, but we do appreciate their service and involvement, not only on the school board, but in this community as a whole. And so we're blessed to have a very supportive school board in Lake Travis ISD. Some staff members that we have with us here today. First, our Deputy Superintendent, Dr. Holly Morris-Kuentz. Appreciate her being here today. She's also a board member for the chamber, and so very involved in lots of levels. Miss Evelyn Murphy, she's our Assistant Superintendent for HR. Amber King is General Counsel for the school district. And then Katie Kaufman is the Director of Development of Corporate Relations, as well as Executive Director of the Lake Travis Foundation. And I was hoping she could join us today, but she's not here. But we appreciate all their support, and much like the board, the cabinet in Lake Travis, all that's happened since COVID took place has worked extremely hard to make sure that our students and staff are taken care of and have every opportunity to be successful. And so very thankful for their dedication and willingness to serve in this time. So thank you guys very much for everything that you've done. It's greatly appreciated, not only by me, but this community as a whole. And I'm going to be honest for a minute. The hardest thing that I'm going to do today is stand behind this podium, because I'm very used to moving and going back and forth. And so if I get away, they'll have to direct me back to the podium. But it's a great group here, and appreciate the leadership team in Lake Travis ISD. And of course, the most important introduction that I will make today is my beautiful wife, Jenna, is here with me. And so thankful that she was able to join us today. So thank you, baby, for coming. When you talk about everything that happens in a pandemic, and then you willfully move your family from one community to another, it's been a challenge and an opportunity, but she's been a warrior in making sure that everything's done, and appreciate her very much. And so, and also we have 3 children, as Anne-Marie said. Emily is a freshman at Arkansas Tech University. She had the opportunity to go to governor's school there last summer for a month and absolutely loved it and fell in love with the university. So being a Texas Tech guy, it really bothered me that it didn't say Texas Tech on there, but we'll take Arkansas Tech. That's close enough. We'll ride with that. Julia is a freshman at Lake Travis High School, is involved in soccer. She's also involved with a LT Elite soccer program and has made some great friends there, and we're excited about her involvement at the high school. And then our youngest, Caleb, is a 5th grader. He's at Serene Hills Elementary and absolutely loves his teacher, the school, and so very proud to have him as a part of the Sailors at Serene Hills Elementary. And then we talk in the district about our why. Why do we do what we're doing? And when I first came to the district, I warned our group that I'm going to ask the question why a lot. And it's not for any reason to question, it's just for me to find out. And what can we do different? What can we do in a more succinct way? And so this is my why. The picture that was just on the screen is my family, and making sure that our kiddos have every opportunity to be successful. When you look at that picture, the part of this picture that scares me the most is that Caleb now pretty much looks eye to eye with Jenna. And this picture was taken on December 29th, so it was before the world shut down. And Jenna's family lives outside of LA. And so we took a tour of Dodger Stadium. And so part of me is kind of rooting for the Dodgers to win the World Series. And so just so we can say we were in the stadium the year that they won it. But watching Caleb grow, and Julia is the one with the glasses on, and then Emily's next to her. And, you know, them wearing their Rolling Stone shirts together to take a picture at Dodger Stadium. Not sure if that's a parent win or a parent fail, but we'll go with the win part on this. So very proud of our family and everything that comes with being a family and their transition to Lake Travis. So a little bit about me. As Anne-Marie said, I've been involved in a lot of things. Kind of my background professionally, I taught high school and middle school science. I also taught non-credit middle school Spanish. I also coached football, basketball, and baseball as a teacher. I love baseball. Baseball is my number one love. And so getting to do that, I was a varsity baseball coach for a couple of years before I got into administration. Then I became an assistant principal of a high school for 2 years. Then I transitioned to Texarkana ISD, and I was an associate principal at the high school level for 2 years. Then I was a high school principal for 8 years and spent the last 9 years as superintendent for Texarkana ISD. And we absolutely loved our time in Texarkana, but we know the opportunities here are even greater, not only for us, but especially for our kids. As I said earlier, I attended Texas Tech University. I have 4 siblings. I actually have a twin brother. He's not nearly as good looking as I am, but I do have a twin brother, and then 3 younger siblings. So my parents had twins and then 3 more. So I'm not sure what they were thinking either. And we also grew up on a dairy. And so I learned at a very early age what hard work looked like. When I was 11, 12 years old, I got up at 3:30 in the morning. I went and milked cows. And then I went to school. And then I went and milked cows again. And then I hauled hay. I mended fences. I built fences. I did all the things that you do growing up on a dairy in the country of East Texas. And it taught me a lot. And so when I was a high school principal, I would tell our students that if they thought they were having it rough, get up tomorrow morning at 3:30 and go milk cows, and then we can talk about what rough looks like. But it was a great opportunity for me to learn what hard work looked like and how to make decisions at a very early age. Anne-Marie went over some of the committees and things that I've served on, but I'll hit on those real quick. I've been on the Commissioner's Cabinet, Commissioner of Education's Cabinet for the last few years. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, Superintendent Advisory Committee. He started that before the previous legislative session, and I learned a lot being on that committee about how the legislature works, what his involvement is, and how powerful the Lieutenant Governor's chair truly is. You always know what you think it's going to be, but when you've sat in the room, you understand it a lot better. I'm part of the Urban Superintendents Association of America, been involved with that for 5 or 6 years now. The Future Ready Superintendent Leadership Network, the Policy Committee on Public Education Information. That's one of those data-driven committees that are tough to sit through sometimes, but great information comes from those. And then the Management Committee as well. And so great committees been able to provide great information to our district, and great networking opportunities are the best things that have come from serving on those committees. And then locally in Texarkana, I was involved in a lot of different functions and areas. This past year, I served as president of Leadership Texarkana, which is a partnership between Northeast Texas, Southwest Arkansas to help build leadership capacity within our community as a whole. And so I've served on that board for 5 or 6 years and spent the last year as president and thoroughly enjoyed that. Also president of the Northeast Texas Alliance of Black School Educators. In Texarkana, we had a great relationship with all the different communities in Texarkana. And so it was actually a huge honor to be selected to be president of that group and be able to provide opportunities for our kids through lots of scholarship opportunities. And part of that, the main piece of that was to promote kids to go into education as a career. And so we were very proud of that. And then also served on the Chamber of Commerce, a regional Chamber of Commerce in Texarkana, Texarkana, USA, because it did encompass both the Texas and Arkansas side. So involved in the political arena, not only in Texas, but also in Arkansas from a chamber's perspective, and spent this last year as the treasurer and was slated to be president of the chamber in Texarkana in 2022. So look forward to continue to build my relationship and the district's relationship with the chamber here locally. So very excited about that. Our theme for this school year is Learning Transformed. So when you look at the calendar, we basically went 178 days without having kids on campus. And who would have ever dreamed that would have been a possibility? You look at what happened in the spring when March hit and the schools had to shut down. The governor shut the schools down. Our staff had to transition quickly from a traditional teaching environment to completely remote quickly. And the staff here did a phenomenal job of making sure that that was done as smoothly. Was it perfect? Absolutely not. But there was nothing in that transition that was perfect for anybody. It was a learning curve for all of us. So very proud of what this community did and what this school district did for our students. We've continued to receive information from different agencies across the state and different guidance from different entities. Of course, TEA has been a driving force in what we can and cannot do as a school district. Austin Public Health has obviously been a driving force of what we can and cannot do as a school district. Travis County, and also UIL. As football and volleyball have gotten started, we deal with a lot of things that happen in the gyms and the football stadiums that we're not used to. And so a lot of those directives come from the state level that we have to implement and make sure that we're done in a very safe and timely manner. And we still get changes. TEA has been on a roll pretty much every Thursday here lately to send changes to things that we can and cannot do as a school system. And so I know sometimes it feels frustrating that things change as we communicate those things out, but I want you to rest assured that we're just as frustrated as you are, because those changes are impacting us and making us adjust things on the fly for our students and our staff and our community as well. Back late in the summer, we did a parent commitment form for students to decide if they were going to come on campus for instruction or if they were going to learn remotely. And so our commitment forms came in at the end of August, and we had 59% of our students that were committed to come to school on campus. So when school started on August 19th, we were in a remote environment through September 4th. So that almost got us through the first 3 weeks of school for remote learning. And then the Tuesday after Labor Day, we transitioned to some kids coming on campus. So our elementary students, our 6th graders, our 9th graders, our centralized special ed district program students, as well as district employees could come to school starting on September 8th. And then September 21st, all students who chose in-person learning could come to school. And so at that point is when we had our 59% of our students on campus on September 21st. And it has been amazing the minimal number of COVID positive cases that we've had in a school district our size. And we'll talk about some of those numbers here in just a minute. And then on October 13th, so this past week, we transitioned to the second grading period. So students that are in remote learning can come back to the campus at the beginning of a grading period. And so we went from 59% of our students on campus to right at 65% of our students on campus beginning on October 13th. And a lot of our elementary schools are close to 70%. Really, our anomaly is the high school, where it's about 55% of our students are on campus and 45% are at home. And so our elementary beginning was the one very nervous about bringing the kids back to school. And now they've really brought their students back to school because they see the safety measures that have been put in place across the district. We've had lots of meetings regarding COVID-19, not only at the local level, but also at the state level. When COVID hit back in March, we had daily phone calls with the Commissioner of Education, where he was giving us day-to-day updates of this is what we're doing, this is what we're changing, all the policies that they had to amend so that we could do remote learning, the grading, the kids coming on campus, who could come, who couldn't. A lot of those decisions, the vast majority of those decisions were made from the state level. And we learned about those in conversations with the commissioner on a daily basis. Then as the summer got here, we went to 2 meetings a week. And right now we're 1 meeting a week with the commissioner, where we get updates from him on things that are adjusting and changing across the state. Austin Public Health, we stay in constant contact with Austin Public Health. We have a meeting every Monday with Austin Public Health as superintendents to go over the impact and the things that are happening within our county and our city as a whole. And then on Friday mornings, they have another meeting with Austin Public Health, hosts another meeting with school districts as well as other entities around the area. And we're also involved in those meetings. Region 13 is a group of superintendents. We meet once a week, even now, to talk about COVID-19 and the impact and where we're going from here. And then also once a week, we have a separate phone call meeting where 18 local school districts get together and talk about what's happening in their districts, what's happening in our districts, so that we can plan and try to be as consistent across our area as possible with the things that we're implementing, because we know that's what's best for our families, is to make sure that we're being consistent as much as possible within our specific school districts, but incorporating what the area is doing as well. We also have cabinet meetings as a group, as a school district. The cabinet here was meeting pretty much every day when March got here. When I came this summer, we were meeting twice a week, and now we're meeting once a week as a cabinet group, but then there's multiple meetings throughout the week that are called at a moment's notice when things happen and updates come through. So as you can see, we've had lots of communication, lots of meetings as a school district with our local authorities as well as the state authorities to make sure that we stay on top of of what is best for our students, because student safety is our number one priority. We want to make sure that our students are safe every day when they come to school. We know that your two most precious assets are your students and your money. And that's something that the district has a huge impact on. And so we want to continue to provide those safe measures for our kids to continue to build that trust with the school district and the community as a whole. Safety protocols that we have in place, I want to run through a couple of those real quick. Classroom access, hand sanitizer. Every classroom has hand sanitizer. Every classroom has disinfecting wipes, and also gloves for the classes to use to make sure that the classes are as safe as possible. Contactless access coming in and out of the buildings. We leave the front doors open during the come and go time of the campuses, and also look for students' badges to get in and out of the doors. Hands-free hand sanitizer stations throughout the building, not only in the classroom with the pumps, but also spread out throughout the campus. And then installed water bottle filler stations across the district. So each campus got additional water bottle fillers so that they wouldn't have to use the water faucets to get water. And so those have all been really, really good. And then badges for cafeteria and library scanning. So lots of things to keep contact as minimal as possible within the campus. Also, student illness protocols. Holly gets to deal with a lot of the COVID-19 initiatives, and she spends a lot of her day dealing with COVID and does a phenomenal job of making sure that when we do get a possible positive test or a positive test, that we follow all the protocols that are in place to make sure that it doesn't spread. And that's been a huge benefit to our students and staff to make sure that we help with the control of the spread of the virus in our community. Cleaning has completely changed. Additional custodial staffing throughout the district to make sure that we can keep our campuses and our buildings as clean as possible. We focus during the day on cleaning the high contact surfaces. So even though doors are open when school starts, you still have kids coming in out of other doors, in and out of the cafeterias, different places, restrooms. So we make sure that we wipe those doors and surfaces down multiple times throughout the day. Hospital grade, long lasting disinfectants on high contact surfaces. Electrostatic sanitation equipment for campuses that we're able to go through each campus and make sure that we're sanitizing as much as possible. And then training for all staff and students on those processes. And so that's been a big piece of making sure that our staff is trained and our students are trained. Your students may not be cleaning at home, but they're cleaning at some point during the school day. And so they do a phenomenal job and have been a huge asset to making sure. And it's funny how quickly kids just adjust. They just go with it. And because they have a trusting adult that's leading them, and that's a great thing to see. And then more frequent specific cleaning of shared items in classrooms. Creative scheduling and routing, so making sure that we try to eliminate clusters of students as much as possible, examining cohorts and ways to reduce classroom changes where possible. So for example, elementary campuses, the classroom of kids are staying together. They're not changing classrooms. They're going to the playground and playing together. They're not commingling with the other grade level classes at recess. And so the kids are still outside. They're still having a great time. They just can't mingle with all the students in their grade level right now. Ways to use our buildings differently. We've examined lots of different ways and implemented things to make sure that we're utilizing our buildings and facilities in as safe a way as possible. Dispersing drop-off and pickup locations to spread students out and have smaller groups of contact. Utilizing outdoor classrooms. A lot of our campuses are utilizing outdoor classrooms for different activities to help get the kids outside and get in the fresh air. Other preventive measures that we've taken is signage across the campuses and other buildings to remind people to wash their hands and do all the things to stay safe. Reminders in the restrooms to wash hands, and then very limited visitors. Really, nobody's on campus unless they just absolutely have to be there. And that's just for the overall safety of the campus, our staff, and our students. So lots of safety protocols that we have put in place as a district. We've also developed a district dashboard that you can find on our website, and it gives you almost up to the minute update of where we are with COVID cases. So you can see this was taken yesterday. We have 2 students that have tested positive, so 0.02% of our student population is positive right now. This shows 0 staff. We actually had 2 staff that we found out last night tested positive, but that puts us at 0.16%. So very minimal impact. The number of staff that have tested positive has been a handful, and the students is 10, 12 throughout this whole pandemic of the fall semester. And so we're very proud of our staff and our students of making sure that safety protocols are followed and that we're doing what's best for our community as well as our students. When you look at enrollment, Christy kind of touched on enrollment for Primrose. We're feeling those same effects of our enrollment as a school district. When you look at our elementary enrollment, last year we were at 4957 in district enrollment at the elementary campuses, and right now we're at 4621 in enrollment. And so last year's data is taken from Snapshot, which was actually Friday of next week, and so our numbers aren't official as of yet. But we're down 336 kids at the elementary level. A vast majority of those are kindergarten, first grade, and families that are choosing to keep their kids at home. We fully anticipate that will change as the school year goes on, especially when school starts next year, that these students and families will come back to us, and then we'll have the additional growth anticipated for next year on top of that as well. And so while this is a little blip in the radar of enrollment at the elementary level, we know the students are there. All the realtors are telling us they're still selling houses and building houses. So we know they're not going away. We're still anticipating that growth to continue. We're enrollment's down 336 kids and a little over 6% of our elementary enrollment. Middle school is very flat. We're actually down 13 students across all three middle schools together. And so that's a good sign that our middle school kids continue to come back. A lot of our middle school kids came back on October 13th. And so we will continue to look forward to those middle school students coming. And then you look at our high school numbers. High school continues to grow. Even though a lot of the students are virtual, they're coming, they're enrolled. We're up another 182 students from last year at the high school. So continue to see almost a 5.5% growth in enrollments at Lake Travis High School. So right now we're at 3,583 students at Lake Travis. So you can basically say 3,600 students currently at Lake Travis High. And the capacity with the building, the way it's designed right now, of 3,900 students. So we're quickly getting to the point of capacity at Lake Travis High School. So you look at enrollment for all schools. As a district overall, we are down 167 students. Considering what we were worried it was going to be, that's a really good number. We don't want enrollment to go down, but considering where the pandemic was headed and what we were being told would be our enrollment projections, we're happy with where we are and continue to look forward to our students coming back to the school district when them and their families feel safe to do so. But we're very proud of the protocols that we have in place to make sure that our campuses are safe on a daily basis. Legislative update. There's not a lot of a legislative update this year because we're starting another session in January. So just looking at some of the priorities, obviously a new Speaker of the House will be put in because Representative Bonin stepped away. And so the Speaker of the House position is very vital to decisions that are made in Austin. When you look at our school district, Lake Travis ISD, what are some initiatives that we are keeping a close eye on and being involved in? Fast growth funding is always a big question. What's going to happen with fast growth funding? Because that is vitally important to a school district that's growing. And even though our numbers are down right now, we know our numbers are going up. And so we have to make sure that those dollars stay there. Obviously, early childhood, mental health has been a huge topic of conversation of the pandemic and the impact not only on students, but also on staff and adults in the school district and helping students. And so the mental health funding, there's a lot of initiatives, early initiatives out there. And then House Bill 3 is the bill that refigured school finance the last session. And so how are we going to make sure that we keep as many of those dollars in our school district as possible? Because the legislature has lots of tough decisions to make about cutting because of where they stand. The dollars aren't there at the state level. We're still getting a lot of promises that school funding won't be impacted very much, but I'll believe that when the bill is signed and we see exactly where we stand. So we're making plans appropriately. Academic accountability for students. How does the pandemic impact that? Because we have a lot of students that haven't been in a classroom in 6 months, as we talked about earlier. And so we don't want accountability to go away, but there needs to be some type of variance in the accountability to make sure that we don't punish kids because of the pandemic. And we're working with our legislature on that. Remote learning, there's been lots of conversation about remote learning being a viable possibility in the years ahead. I don't think it will happen this legislative session, but I think those conversations are going to take place and may be something for the 88th legislative session to take on. And then obviously watching the November elections and how that will impact us as a school district and us as a state with how the elections roll in November. A couple of project updates I want to update you on. The Spillman Loop Drive at Lake Travis High School has been completed and has been a huge improvement. And so I'm going to run through these slides pretty quick so we have time at the end of our presentation for questions. But Spillman Loop Road that goes by the high school, you can see in, now it's 2 ways in, and used to be 1 way out, and now there's 3 full lanes going out within a 4th lane when you get to the exit of the road. And so just the traffic flow and getting students off campus, obviously it spills a lot on the 620, but it's a good way to get students off campus in a very timely and appropriate manner. And then also, as I mentioned, the exits have been redone. So you look at these pictures, they just show the different widenings that happened on the Spillway Loop Drive and the improvements that were made by the district. You look at the exit on the next picture, you see the sidewalk right here that was put on, added on the campus side of Spillway Loop Drive, just so it'd be a safe walking environment because we didn't have those sidewalks before. So if students were walking up and down that area, they were walking in the road that had 1 lane. And so it was not a very safe area. And so the district did a great job of addressing that and making sure it's safe for our students. And then the exit off Spillman Loop Drive onto 620 is magnificently better than it was before. And then one other piece, we've added another parking lot at the high school. As the high school enrollment continues to grow, we have to continue to find places to park our students. So this parking lot was added this summer. And so you can kind of see the far end of Spillman Loop Drive, the drainage that was put in for the parking. And then when you look at the parking lot from different angles, it's a great parking lot for our students. And so it's a safer environment for students to park in because this parking lot comes directly off Spillman Loop Drive. And so it's a lot safer entrance for our students in a parking lot that they can easily just stay on that part of campus and not infiltrate the front of the high school. And then also a sidewalk on this end of Spillman Loop Drive as well for a safe walking pattern for our students. And also in August, we opened elementary number 7, Rough Hollow Elementary. It's an absolutely beautiful campus. And I know that you haven't had a chance to go through it because we haven't been able to open it for visitors, but hopefully we will be able to do that before too long. But it is a beautiful campus for our students. Lots of great pictures that I've brought since we don't have the opportunity to go through the campus as a whole, but the Rough Hollow Rattlers. And so it's a beautiful campus. The kids are excited to be there. The front of the school, the outside exterior, the gym, a good open fun space for kids to learn, the library, a couple of pictures of the library here, lightway in the main hallway, the main corridor of the campus, and then the playground outside with the goals and the covered playground area, which is very nice for our students to keep them as safe as possible. And at the end of the day, this is why we do what we do, is making sure that our students have every opportunity to be successful. We expose them to a variety of curricular programs, co-curricular as well as extracurricular, to learn what their talents are, because we know that every child has a different talent, and it's our responsibility to find that hook for each and every child to keep them engaged in their education, because education becomes more and more competitive every year. And we want to make sure that the students that come out of Lake Travis are prepared for whatever their future may hold. And so we're very proud of the programs that we offer our students and look forward to doing a lot more things to continue to grow those opportunities for our students. So with that, I think we have about 10 minutes left for questions. We can look at that. One of the things with the cumulative number is that there's a lot of variance that goes into that as well, based on whether it was on campus, off campus, how it was transmitted. And so we've actually had some of those conversations, but we'll continue to look at that and see if we can add that cumulative number on there. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. As of right now, our plan right now is to continue to have remote as an option. So we'll do another commitment form like we did before the last grading period. So we'll have a deadline probably end of November for students to submit if they're going to change their setting. So if they want to transition from at home from remote to on campus, then they can complete that form. I fully anticipate that the rest of the school year that remote will continue to be an option unless TEA says we can't. But we've seen some schools across the state that have done away with remote, but they're very small school districts that only had a couple of students still doing remote. And just the burden that was for the school district, they went away from it. And actually TEA has come out with a lot of guidance on when you can eliminate remote teaching. So very good question. Yes, sir.
What percentage of on-campus can you have?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Asked about capacity at the high school with social distancing measures. And that's a hard number because classrooms are different sizes. And so when you go into a science lab, a lot of those classes are a little bit bigger than your English, history classes, math classes. And so I don't know what the exact number is as far as capacity with social distancing, but our classrooms are social distance as much as we can. Obviously, as more kids come back on campus, it's harder to keep the 6 foot distance. And there's a lot of recommendations out there about 3 foot should be the distance now. And so Austin Public Health and TEA has not changed that number officially on their end yet, but I anticipate that that may be a measure that's coming to give us a little bit more room in some of our classrooms for those students that do want to come back on campus. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hi, Mr. Norton, thank you for being here today.
Yes, sir.
My question is to a post-COVID world. What protocols have you adopted during COVID-19 that you think you might keep in a post-COVID world, which ones you think you might get rolled back?
Okay, very good question. So the question was, post-COVID, what of these protocols will we keep in place moving forward? And so I think a lot of the cleaning protocols, maybe not to the level that it is now. I think we'll scale back on that a little bit. But I think a lot of the cleaning protocols will continue to be in place. Social distancing will continue to be at some capacity where we can. Obviously, as campuses get to capacity, it's harder to keep that social distancing when everybody's on campus, but we'll continue to look at social distancing. And then, just kids, the high traffic common areas. What can we do to make sure that we don't have clusters of students sitting together for an extended period of time? If they're passing each other in a hallway, that can be okay, but we don't want a lot of kids clustered together at lunch for an extended period of time, for an example. And so a lot of those protocols we'll continue to look at. Academically, the online remote learning would be an option that the state would have to make some changes before that became a possibility. I've been involved in an online school in the past, and is that something that we can look at as a school district for our kiddos? That's conversations that we'll have once we get past COVID, because those aren't conversations we need to have right now. But I think there's a lot of the safety protocols, limiting visitors on campus. We want visitors on campus. We want parents on campus as much as possible because we want to partner with parents to have those successful learning environments for students. But is there a safety quota? Is there a number that we need to keep that at to prevent other safety things from becoming possible? And so those are all things that we're looking at and could very well be part of the post-COVID-19 world in education. Yes, sir. Good question. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So the question was about accountability with COVID-19 and the district as a whole, and then looking at the state level from the state lens of accountability. I strongly believe in accountability. I think we all need accountability within our lives, because if we don't, it's easy to fall off. The struggle with COVID-19 is there are a lot of things that have happened, and students have been put in situations where they couldn't get to school. They couldn't get online. And you don't want to punish students for things that are outside of their control. So if they live in a community or an area or a neighborhood that doesn't have good internet access, and they've been forced to be in remote learning by the state of Texas for the whole, half of the spring semester and the first part of school this year, what can we do to make sure that those students aren't falling behind and can get back to where they were? Because if we continue to test kids at the rate that we have been with the same standards we have been, and those kids fall off, then you're talking about lots of mental health issues, whether it's students that decide to drop out, they don't get in rigorous programs at the high school level, because they struggled at the middle school level because of COVID. There may have been great students, but they needed that one-on-one interaction with teachers to continue to grow academically. And so I strongly believe that we need accountability. I strongly believe that there needs to be an accountability system in the state of Texas for education. I think there's a lot of things that can be done to massage that right now, maybe for the next 2 years, to where we don't punish students for a pandemic. We don't want to be punished as adults. We've dealt with a lot, and we blame it on COVID-19. And what are kids going through? And then they're hearing that feedback from us as well. And so if there's a way that we can, the state of Texas did away with accountability last spring, at least the testing piece of it, and that was the right decision to make at the time. This year so far, they've said that we're going to have accountability and testing, and I think that's fine as long as we have safety nets in place for kids that we see that have been successful in the past that fall short this year. And we have an opportunity to work with those students to make sure that they continue on their successful path, because we don't want that one test they take on that one day to deter them from feeling good about their education. And I think that's a very real possibility with what we've been through. So how can we, as a school district, make sure that we're putting protocols in place to make sure that we're getting kids caught up where they need to be, and that the state helps us along in that process? What other questions? Those are great questions. No other questions? All right. Are there any questions online? No questions online. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Okay. I'm sorry, I can't hear your question. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No. It's a very legitimate question, and it is a hot topic question. And I can tell you that of my 2.5 months in Lake Travis, that other than COVID-19, the number one conversation piece I've had is about the high school and where are we going. And so we've had starting conversations about what that conversation looks like, because it is very important for this community as the high school continues to grow, of what's next for the high school. Is it a second high school? Is it doing different programs at the high school? Is it pull-out programs? And those are conversations that we'll have to have in the next 9 to 12 months. Obviously, a lot of community involvement involved in those conversations. That's not something that I will stand here and decide on. I can promise you that. And our school board is great about getting community input. And so those are conversations that we will have possibly as early as in the spring, maybe next fall, about what do we do with the capacity at Lake Travis High School and what are our options? Because I think there are a lot of options. And I don't know that COVID-19 might not open the door to a couple more possibilities as well. And so we'll continue to evaluate that, but we'll have lots of conversations about that in the days and months ahead, because that is a very passionate topic for this community. And we actually talked about it in interviews when I came here. So I know it's very hot topic in Lake Travis. Anything else? Well, it is 12:59. And so we're running right at our timeline. So with that, I will turn it back over to Miss Anne Marie. Thank y'all very much.